નમસ્તે ગોપાલભાઈ, જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ.
જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ.
નમસ્તે ગોપાલભાઈ, જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ.
જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ. જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ.
કેમ છો તમે?
બસ પરમાત્માની કૃપા છે, સંતોના આશીર્વાદ છે અને લોડ શેડિંગ ની કૃપા છે. સ્ટેજ 4 5 હમણાં ઇમરજન્સી રિમોટ લઈને જ આઈ એમ સિટિંગ વિથ ધ ઇમરજન્સી રિમોટ નાઉ within 2 minutes we are in load stage 4 but we got arrangements, don't worry.
In India, one of the town at the entrance they said मुस्कुराइए मुस्कुराइए आप હૈદરાબાદ में. તો એવી જ રીતે આપણે હવે એમ કહેવાનું કે લોડ શેડિંગ સાઉથ આફ્રિકામાં આવો, આ લોડ શેડિંગ પાર્ટ ઓફ પાર્સલ છે.
Can you see now?
પણ અંગ્રેજી વાતમાં આપણે લોડ શેરિંગમાં ઘણા જવાબ મળ્યા ને અર્થ પણ જવાબ મળે. જે બધાએ ઉપવાસ કરે ને ફાસ્ટિંગ કરે ને ડાયટિંગ કરે એ લોકો પણ લોડ શેરિંગ કરે.
જી 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 બહુ સરસ.
એ પણ લોડ શેડિંગ, વાહ, સાચી વાત છે અશ્વિનભાઈ. જે લોકો ઉપવાસ કરે લોડ શેડિંગ કરે,
ઈ લોડ શેડિંગ 12 થી 2 વાગ્યા સુધી દરરોજ હોય કે જમવાને ટાઈમ.
સાચી વાત છે.
તો બહુ લાંબી, not taking too long. Unfortunately, our Lucy Ben, she couldn't host today due to load shedding. But nevertheless, this is a series of talks, so I don't want to postpone because Ashwin Bhai and Gopal Bhai was very busy during this Pitru Paksha. So we're gonna go on. I ask Gopal Bhai to, as our customary, please do the opening prayer and then few words from you, Gopal Bhai. Thank you.
हरि ओम नमो गणेभ्यो गणपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो भ्रातेभ्यो भ्रातपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो घृत्सेभ्यो घृत्सपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो विरूपेभ्य विश्वरूपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः. ओम विष्णुरराटमसि विष्णोः स्नप्रेस्त विष्णोः स्यूरसि विष्णोर्ध्रुवोऽसि वैष्णवमसि विष्णवे त्वा. ॐ ह्रीं अनादिनिधनं देवं शङ्खचक्रगदाधर अक्षय पुण्डरीकाक्ष पितृमोक्षप्रदो भव. ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. So today, as we are joining into the series of the talk about the Pitru Paksha, SHRADDHA Paksha, and most important to create our all misconceptions about the SHRADDHA too. SHRADDHA, the first things first we must understand SHRADDHA iti SHRADDHA. So during this SHRADDHA time, Pitru Paksha time, our faith is more important than the rituals. We do rituals out of the fear. We have been put so much fear in our mind about the rituals. So when we perform the SHRADDHA, so where our focus goes in? If our focus goes more in, okay, have I done these things? Do I have this item or not? Oh, must I haven't forgot anything else? Instead of the focusing into the main, which is our ancestor. Our ancestor, they must get peace. They must, and then they are always happy with us. They're always happy with us when we invite with love, when we respect, when we show our faith towards them. So that is why last we had also chat 2 days back also, and continuously in my post as well, I request to all the devotees and everyone. There is no need to be fear. There is a need to be faith. And do not allow your surrounded opportunistic personalities to take the advantage out of your faith. So as we are in the Kirit Bhai and Ashwin Bhai will be continue explain about it, because I have only little time, because then after I have to go for my Gita classes too. But mainly I request to the devotees, as we are focusing into the SHRADDHA time, so develop your faith towards your ancestor. Do any kriya, tarpana, dana, etc. with your faith. And let's allow your faith to be increased instead of the fear. There is a one fear we always talk. Ke bhai, most of people think about we cannot keep our ancestor pictures into the house, and that always this question always is there. And we believe, and nowhere in the scriptures has described that you cannot keep the ancestor picture. You must keep. We actually emphasize that. You have to keep your ancestor pictures in your house. You have to be remember your ancestors. You have to be continuously focus onto the ancestors too. Because of them, our identity, because of them sacrifice, our identity is there. We were nowhere into the world before so many, like say, so many years ago, like ourselves, like how old we are, 25 years, 30 or 50-year old, no matter how old we are. But before our birth, our existence was none, but our identity is known from them, hard work, them dedications. By paying respect to our ancestor, we have to keep our ancestor pictures into our house too. And where to put, that is the discussion. But instead of the taking all ancestor pictures out from the house and not to respect, that is, we must clear that misconception. And that is why in our Dharma Shastra, our Shastra has introduced these 15 days of the Pitru Paksha, Shraddha Paksha. That alone tells us how important of the Shraddha and remembering our Pitru in our life. So today, as we have Ashwin Bhai, Tikamji from the Hindu Mahasabha, and our host Kirit Bhai too, and then myself. So we will be try our best to clear your doubt, and we will be give you more information, scriptures based, which is can help you to increase your faith. So from now, I think Kirit Bhai will take over, and then I will see. Thank you to allowing me to.
Thank you, Gopal Bhai. Jai Shri Krishna. I must thank you, and I forgot to introduce you. But Gopal Bhai, Ashwin Bhai, these people, no need introduction in South Africa. Very well known. Gopal Bhai is from the East London Hindu Society from East London, and very active, very all the time connected to the youth, and he always try new things to connect to the community. Thank you, Gopal Bhai, for your precious time. And I also like to say Gopal Bhai also who, for the World Hindu Pandit Organization, he lead in South Africa. Thanks for your time, Gopal Bhai. I know you had to go. So, but again, thank you for your kind words.
No, thank you.
Those who are watching live, my apology. We play the introduction, the music, but I think so the music something they made mistake. But anyway, in this social things, social media is sometimes advantage and sometimes disadvantage as well. Our next host is our very well known and for us very respected. When I say us, is because we are Gujarati, and then from the Gujarati side, our Ashwin Bhai all the time very supportive to all the mandirs. So very respected. And from Hindu Mahasabha, he represents South African Hindu Mahasabha in South Africa. Ashwin Bhai also try to all the information through the social media, and his team always support us. So Ashwin Bhai, not gonna take long. Namaste, Jai Shri Krishna to you.
Namaste, Jai Shri Krishna, and Jai Shri Krishna to Guruji Gopal. Wish you well.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Ashwin Bhai, as you're aware about the Pitru Paksha and SHRADDHA Paksha, the both we have just started begin on the yesterday, before yesterday, and there was some confusion on the dates, but we come to the dates late. Let me ask you that how long and how the South African Hindu community attached to the SHRADDHA Paksha, how they celebrate the SHRADDHA Paksha.
Yeah, I think very important. I'm going to read some information that Pandit Lokesh Maharaj who is the head of the Hindu Mahasabha's priest council. He prepared some information which was, which we have already provided to many people who asked the question. I think very important is to find out, why do we observe Pitru Paksha, before we even go to the actual practice itself and how we perform it. Firstly, it's 15 days, 15 divas, 15 days, where Hindus, the followers of Sanatana Dharma, observe a memorial and thanksgiving for the departed souls, the Atma. I think that's very, very important. It's, there's always this misconception that you are praying to the dead, which is wrong, which is not the case.
Yes, yes.
What
yes.
I think it's so important that we observe a memorial and thanksgiving for the departed souls, and that is very important. It's a special times when Hindus acknowledge their indebtedness, to their ancestors who made valuable contributions to the world and specifically to themselves, right? So thanksgiving and memorial to ancestors is enjoined in the scriptures. It's not something that just comes up by custom. For instance, in the 10th mandala, the 15th sukta and the first mantra of the Rig Veda, right? It says, may the Pitras come forward, being kind-hearted, may they protect us, right? That's from the Rig Veda. And then the third mantra says, right, O Jata Vedasa, you know the Pitras who are there and those who are here, right? Those we know and those whom we do not know because they are remote and right? Be used to accept their offerings which are well prepared, right? Then if you take the 14th sukta, the Yajur Veda, this is what the Yajur Veda says. Offerings in respect of Pitras are called
Disconnecting like that there is. So sorry, our apology on that. I think so Ashwin is disconnect. But in our scriptures, from not only from the the Purana or Garud Purana, which is most people know about the when Pitru or death come, then we always talk about the Garud Puran. But not only we offer the prayer during the death, but also we praying before the Janma. It's also called Sanskar. I think so. Our Ashwin Bhai is on came back to so let join Ashwin Bhai
Can I
was disconnected.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes, carry on.
according to these mantras that I quoted from the Yajur Veda and Rig Veda, right? The whole idea of Pitra, or the concept, right, which includes the immediate ancestors and our departed relatives and friends, do exist, right? The verses point to the necessity for followers of Sanatana Dharma to observe a memorial and thanksgiving for the departed soul. Right? These verses indicate that the followers of Hindu Dharma need to acknowledge their indebtedness to their ancestors who made a valuable contribution to society. Now, the Bhagavad Puran, right, contains several verses that provides evidence, right, that Pitra Shraddha was an integral part of Sanatan society, right? In chapter 3, verse 26, it says, after arriving, they offered their respects to the forefathers, the Devtas, and the great sages. Now, if you explain this verse, and this is how Srila Prabhupada, right, explained it, right? He says that as a rule, every human being is indebted to God, Bhagwan, right? To the Devtas, to the great rishis, right? And others, people in general, the forefathers, etc., right? For the various contributions received from them. Thus, everyone is obliged to repay the debt of gratitude, right? In Canto 7, chapter 14, and on verse 7, we find the following, right? Advice that is given. Similarly, one should offer oblations to the relatives of the forefathers during Mahalaya ceremonies in the month of Ashwin, right?
Yes.
Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, right, in chapter 1 and verse 41, I think that's one almost everybody knows this, right? Arjun, right? He refers to the Pindodaka Kriya, right? Now, this is evidence that the offering of Pind, right, was part of the Mahabharata community. And we all know that that was some 5,000 years ago. Right? So there's evidence there as well. So again, then in the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, again, Srila Prabhupada writes, right, to verse 8 of chapter 27, he says, the offering of oblations in the name of Bhagwan or Lord Vishnu is called Pindodaka, right? And it is necessary that the descendants of a family offer pind to their forefathers. So that's it. So I think that is a good explanation for
Yes.
the scriptural source,
Yes.
right? Because quite often, I think, Kirtibai, you and I get asked this very often by young people, and understandably, quite correctly, they say, "Oh, you tell us we must observe Pitru Paksha. Where does it say in the scriptures? Now, which scripture says that you must observe Pitru Paksha? This is all." Some of them say, "Oh, this is all man-made. It's created. It's custom," and I don't believe in it, right? So I think it's important now to bring them back and say, look, the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, and of course we all know. If you don't know, then you don't understand Sanatana Dharma as the way you do, right? That the Vedas are the source of our religion, of our Dharma.
Ji.
So the Vedas
That's right,
say,
that's
and
right.
then of course, the Bhagavad Gita itself is the largest source of information for our living. And there you are, even the great Arjun, he also referred to it, and that was at least 5,000 years ago. So there's the evidence, as they say, right? Now, how do you observe it, right? Well, during this period, right, most of us purify ourselves, right, internally and externally.
And
I think that's
externally.
very, very important. That you must purify yourself internally and externally, right? Externally is very simple. We all know we all going to have a bath. Early in the morning you get up and you have a bath, and that's purifying yourself externally, right? The internal purification is not so easy, as we all know.
Especially Pitru Paksha.
Yes, but strict discipline, I think that's the requirement, right? Strict discipline, which includes a vegetarian diet, right? Now, at the moment, the whole world is gone vegan crazy, right? Right. But I will just say vegetarian diet, which includes veganism as well, right? And, so there's abstinence from alcohol as well, right?
Yes.
Daru, whatever you call it, right? And all the other activities that are supposed to be sattvic, right? That's very important. Now, on what you call the mental purification, which is what we were talking about, the internal purification, right, is required. And how do we as devotees, right, do that, right? And you do it by controlling your thoughts, right? You got to control what you are thinking, focusing, right, on everything that is good and that's divine. That's the focus that you should have, right? And then that, of course, is helped by prayer. So if you chant, right, the holy name of Bhagwan, right, or whoever it is you believe in, right, you engage in satsang, right, like the way we are now. This is what we're doing, is really we engaging in satsang,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Or reading of scriptures. Go and read the Bhagavad Gita, go and read the Guru Puran if you can, go and read the Vedas, go and read the Upanishads, whatever you can. But whatever you read, if you read the scriptures, what it does, it cleanses your mind, because the thought process in your mind starts to take a different turn. Because without that, what you're doing is you're living in a society, and what you're thinking from morning to evening, depending on what work you're doing or what profession you are, that's the direction in which your mind is going. And one is not saying that that's impure, but if you want to move to pure form, then satsang, reading scriptures and so on, that helps you, right? So we see that we don't engage in Pitra Puja to the exclusion of worship. Very, very important, right? To the Lord. Right? Fasting, right? As I said, attending the satsang and chanting the law, reading, etc. Right? It's Pitra Paksh is not an inauspicious period, and I want to make this very, very clear. Right? A lot of people think that during Pitra Paksh, you get this fright that Guruji spoke about earlier on. Everybody gets frightened, Pitra Paksh is not a period where you mustn't do anything, can't do this and can't do that, can't buy a motor car, you can't go and enter into a new house. All those can't, all those can't come from frights, right? And the frights come when somebody says, no, there's not an auspicious period. There is no such thing, right? It is not. The Shraddha time or the Pitra Paksh time is not an inauspicious period, right? And as Hindus, right, we are expected to continue our daily worship of Bhagwan, right? Followed by, most important, I think, the offering of water, right? Oblation, water, right? To the departed relatives and friends, right? An important activity during Pitra Paksh, right, is charity. Now, charity doesn't mean putting your hand in your pocket and taking out some money and giving. That's not charity.
Yes.
That is just a ritual. That is just a very, very empty ritual, right?
Yeah.
It's and most important is that in Sanatana Dharma, if you perform any charity, charity doesn't mean you give something or you offer something to another human being only.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Charity is not confined to the human being only, and that's very, very important, right? Therefore, what we do is, right, we provide food, right, for the poor, right, or someone who can't afford, right? But we also called upon to provide food to people who visit. Now, who are the visitors? Not the visitors that come through your front door, right?
Yes.
We're talking about the birds that come onto your roof, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The animals that might come around your area. All the different insects and so on. So they are visitors. And
so they speak about the kakbali, the gau grass, kakbali, like you give to crow, the gau grass you give to cow, and then the needy, those who are around you, those who are don't have food, so you can give them. So many way of dan. Yes.
So that is a dan, and I think it's important that dan doesn't mean only you give dan to human beings only. And that is where the practice of when you prepare some food, right? Our wives, our mothers, our sisters, all the Benjis in our house, right? They take out a little bit and they will say, go and put it outside, right?
Yes.
Or put it by the tree. Now it is not that you are giving it to the Pitras, right?
Pitra, yeah.
What you are doing is you are making that charity, the act of charity of dan, to
name
the
of Pitru.
Yes, the birds that will come. And today, we live in South Africa, where, for instance, I know in Durban where we live, we have monkeys coming around every day, right? So they are waiting, and the little dan that you're offering, they are there to participate in that as well. So that is the real reason for taking, as they say, I got to take out some food. They say, take out some food and offer it, right? That's what it really means, right? And there's no need to, when you take out food, there's no need to take out large amounts of food and put it out. The quantity of the food is not important, right? It's your belief, right? Like you mentioned, and I think Guruji mentioned as well, your Shraddha. What is your Shraddha? Your Shraddha is that you want to offer to the visitors, right? So you take out some food, right? Because there's a little bit of not contradiction, but you got to be careful, because if you take out too much and think that the more you take out, the best, you're wasting food, which is also not good, right? Because the food that you are wasting can be
No one can
offered
use. Yeah.
to somebody who doesn't have, who don't know when they're getting their next meal as well. So the daan is, it's very important when you're making daan that you don't overdo it and lead to wastage, as opposed to offering enough and making sure that there's some left over for other people, for other human beings as well. So that is it. You leave the food in the yard, in your yard somewhere, and so on, right? Now, chapter, I think it's verse 7, right, of the Bhagavad Puran, right, says a person who is fully aware of religious principles, right, should never offer anything like meat, eggs, or fish in the Shraddha ceremony, right?
Ji. Right.
Very,
You,
very
you put it correctly. Yes. Yeah.
has to be sattvic food, right?
Satvik.
When suitable food is prepared with ghee, I'm saying ghee, right? Not with tail, ghee, right? Right? And it is offered, right? To say I am a rishi or a swami or a sadhu, and I am in your town, right? And I'm somewhere around there, and your family decides to offer me something because it's Shraddha, right? Because I'm a visitor. It's so important to make sure what you offer to me.
Ji.
Because if you offer me something that you're not supposed to offer me, it's not, it becomes tough for you, right? Simple.
So
Not
sometime what happened, that's a
Yeah.
perception, and sorry to interrupt you. The perception is like that. Yes, my father used to eat meat, or my father used to drink or something, and therefore I have to put. So you remember, that's the body used to like all those things, but not the soul.
not the
And then
soul.
when you're offering to divine, like Paramatman, Atma by Paramatma. So
Yeah.
the one, yeah, Atma by Paramatma, Atman attached to the Paramatma, and not now is not any just a body, or the was body for your father was, or your great grandfather used to holding. So that
Yes.
perception have to clear that he used to like that particular thing, so we have to offer rather than sattvic food must be offered. Yeah.
And this now, when you offer sattvic food, our forefathers, right, are, are are happy, but they will not be happy if an animal is killed, right? Because
Ji.
that's what happens if you're offering meat. Because what you're
Ji.
doing is, you're offering non-sattvic food, which means that an
Ji.
animal is killed, and they can't be happy about that. Nobody
Ji.
should be happy, right? Uh, and I think let's now deal with I've dealt with what the reasoning is behind the practices and so on, and how what I think some of the questions you get asked, and I'm sure Kirtiba you get asked is,
Ji.
what if you don't observe, right?
Hmm.
You don't do it, right?
Yes.
So one of the most important beliefs of Hindu Dharma, right? That your Atma is real and eternal, right? While the body is just
Just
non-permanent,
carrier.
right? Body,
Ji.
body is just a piece of a vehicle which
Yeah,
the
carrier.
soul, Atma, uses, right, in its journey.
Okay.
And when the Atma leaves that little vehicle, the
Yes. Yeah.
body is absolutely nothing but just, and that's why we cremate it, right? So
Yeah.
what we need to do, right, is we need to engage in activities that elevate the Atma. That's what we need to do. You must
Ji.
elevate the Atma, right? And then if you take karma and reincarnation, those are the two, I think those are very important
Yes. Yeah.
concept. We get young people want to ask, they say, but you're telling me I must believe in ancestors and so on, but yet we
What
don't
about the
believe.
karma?
Yeah, where's the karma, and there's reincarnation. So once we die, we are reborn. So why must we do this, right? And I think that's very, very important, right? Uh, the reality and the everlasting life of the soul, eternity of the soul, right? When you consider the principle of reincarnation, right, it becomes clear that it is necessary and an obligation on all Hindus, right, but especially the householders, right, to acknowledge the indebtedness. I think this is what it's all about. The indebtedness to the ancestors, right? no matter where they may be and irrespective of the physical form. When I say indebtedness, it's your thanksgiving, right? We have to give thanks to our ancestors because our ancestors or our Pitru, they are responsible for us.
Yes.
If
Pay
they were,
homage.
they didn't, they didn't do whatever they wanted to do, then we would not be around. So we are
Yes.
simply saying thank you.
Thanking to them.
That's what it is. And you're not, and again, the misconception, you're praying to the ancestors. Right? You're not praying to the ancestors at all. You
Yes.
just, and Thanksgiving is a universal concept. It applies to all the religions.
Ji.
Christianity has a special Thanksgiving
They
day.
do have, yes, yeah.
Judaism, the Jews have a Thanksgiving time. In fact,
Yes, yes.
their Thanksgiving starts from Friday to Sunday, where they have a
Ji,
dry
ji.
fast, right?
Hmm.
And then similarly with the Muslims as well, they have Thanksgiving as well.
Ji.
So it's universal principle, and of course,
Ji.
it's a universal principle of humanity. I mean, there's
Of
nothing in
course.
the world greater than to say thank you. And
Thank you, yeah.
people find it difficult to say thank you.
Yeah.
They rather swear you or throw something at you than to say thank you to you. It's
Ji.
easy.
Ji.
Yes. So, and one of the important then going forward, right, is that the devotees, right, are remembering, right, and when they remember and pay homage, they are praying for the atma, not the body that you're thinking about, right?
Ji.
For the
Ji.
person. That's
Ji.
very, very important because it is reinforcing our belief that the atma never dies. The atma
Ji.
moves on. So
Ji.
because the atma is moving on, we are praying for the peace of the atma, and we're paying homage to the atma, right?
Ji. Homage.
And you can do it in whichever way you want to, right? Of course, there's one little bit that I should have mentioned earlier on. That in Sanatana Dharma, and I think even in other aspects of Hindu Dharma, right? We all the moment we are born, right, as an individual, right, we have 5 debts. Debts, owing what we owe, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Ji. Ji. Ji.
Yeah. One is our indebtedness to Bhagwan, to
Yeah,
God.
Bhagwan.
That's the first one, right? Then there's a rishi where we are indebted to our rishis, because
Ji.
without the rishis we wouldn't have had the Vedas and the Upanishads, right?
The olden
So we
days
are-
used to be a Gotra.
Yes, right.
The
That's
Gotra.
right.
You're referring Gotra, yeah. And the Rishi, the you give the homage to Rishi as well.
And of course, the third most important following that is to our Pitru, right? Indebtedness to our Pitru,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And then there's also indebtedness to people in general, society in general. We
Okay.
have to be indebted because if without them we won't be living in a people around us, and there won't be any kind of activity that we can engage in, right? So from this we can then come to the conclusion that Shraddha, right? Shraddha is
Ji.
an obligation,
Shraddha.
right, for Hindus,
Ji.
because that obligation comes from our indebtedness. I mean,
Yes.
if I'm indebted to you, if I owe you, then I have an obligation to you, right?
Ji.
So
Ji.
that is why, with us Hindus, because of these different debts that we have when we are born, we have an obligation, right? And that's where and Shraddha, I think you may, or did you mention it, or did Guruji?
The Gopal Bhai. Ji.
Right, right. It's one of the most important, right, aspects of Hindu Dharma, right? Shraddha means, it comes from devotion, right?
Devotion.
Devotion or bhakti, right? If
Ji.
if you've got, and devotion and bhakti, from coming from, not from necessary and obligation, but from the acknowledging that, you acknowledging that I am indebted, then I am going to do bhakti, right, and devotion. And that is how we come about, right? Whether one observes or not, as far as going back to Pitru, is depend on, your own emotions, right, towards your devotion, right? Sometimes you have very strong, some people are emotionally very strong, and they have controlled emotions. Then you've
Ji.
got others who are emotionally not very strong, and they have very weak emotions and they find it difficult. But by performing Pitra, the Shraddha or the Shrad, as we call
Shra.
it helps you, yeah, to overcome that emotion. And then, of course, we have, when you're happy and you want to say thank you, you are demonstrating appreciation, right? That's basically what you're saying, right? Uh, it's it is like I don't like using this example, but we have to use it. We're living in this world uh, because we're part of the Western world now. Once a year, there's Mother's Day.
Ji.
so,
Once a year.
so yeah, once a year only. So once
Ji.
a year, you are supposed to show appreciation to your mother, right? And yet, Hindu Dharma teaches you that is totally contrary to our beliefs, because
Ji.
Ma is from the time the baby is born, the first word is Ma, right?
Ji.
And in most cases, when people are about to leave this world, the word Ma, it's so easy, just M-A, just 2 syllables. The
Ji.
easiest two
Well
syllables
said.
that you can remember, right? And when something, while you are alive and you are living a normal life, and if you go through some strife or some kind of discomfort, oh Ma, again
Yes,
it's
yeah.
Ma.
First word
Right?
come to Oma.
Far. So it is our appreciation to our immediate, right,
Ji.
should be eternal. It should never ever be, as they say,
So
once a year.
so I say in a Mother's Day to people, I said in Hinduism, there is no one Mother Day, is everyday Mother's Day. But
Yeah.
beside that, we pray 21 days in a whole year, where we do 2 times Navratri, 9 and 9/18.
Yeah.
Then before the Diwali, 3 days we pray to Mother Kali, Mother Shakti, and Ma Lakshmi, Ma Saraswati. On the
Yeah.
Diwali day, we pray to Chopra
Yeah.
Pujan. So I said, you people pray already 21 times to Ma Shakti, but your own mother, you pray whole year and not 1 year. So you correctly put that.
Yeah, and that is so important, because these are little issues, but we need to bring them in to try and
Ji.
highlight where our dharma is so universal, right? Like I
Yeah.
said, the Western world creates one day, whereas with us, our we believe in different devtas, but
Ji.
the one devta or the one deva that we say Adya Shakti, right? And Adya Shakti is the supreme, right? The supreme mother is our mata, right?
Mata, yeah.
That's
In
so.
fact, scriptures go to say Mata Prathamo Guru. Your first
Yes,
Guru is the mother.
is
Mata Prathamo
your
Guru.
mother. That's right. That's right. Right.
Yeah.
And then the other question that comes about, and this is where you and I come in quite often, is people come to you and say, "Do I need a pandit or a brahmin or a priest, right, to perform the Pitra puja or the havan, right?"
Yes.
And according to the Garud Puran, right, the Garud Puran that says that the yearly ceremony, right, is done, right. We
Yeah.
call apatrik. What do you call apatrik, right?
Yeah.
The apatrik once a year,
Yeah.
right? And the Parvan Shraddha and the Havan is to be performed during Pitra Paksha, right?
Pitru Paksha.
Yeah. Now, this can be done by the Yajman himself or herself. You
Yes.
don't need a Brahmin there to do it, right?
In fact, Ashwin Bhai,
Yes.
in our scripture they say the Brahma Yajna or the Sandhya Vandan. That is
Yes.
as a Hindu is your duty to do the Brahma Yajna and the Sandhya Vandan, which is the Arya Samaj also often about the mantra and emphasize to community do.
Yes.
Now, Sandhya Vandan and Brahma Yajna, the Sandhya where you pray to the sun and Surya and all offer your Argya, but the Brahma Yajna where you do Tarpan every single day. As a
Yes.
Hindu, you're supposed to do the Tarpan to your the Guru, the Swami Yogi Tapasvi, the Bhagwan,
Whoever you
Brahmastra Pyatu,
pray
Vishnu
with, yes.
Pyatu. Yes, so the Brahma Yagna said, which is we do supposed to every day, and many Pandit they do every day. So as you said correctly, right, you can't call Pandit every day. In fact, for the Brahma Yagna, you're supposed to do
Yeah.
yourself. And many times I explain to all the community, and when I go to our community, I tell them that tell the sankalpa when you begin your prayer. tell the sankalpa. In fact, a prayer is supposed to be done by the yajman. So you
Yeah.
should know the Sanskrit words and the who you are, why you doing this prayer, and then Pandit come. So those
Yeah.
are things which is the yajman supposed to learn. And I think so in the future, which is just that you have mentioned, we have to bring that awareness to the community.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with you. And you know what? The best example is now, COVID-19. What has
Yes,
COVID-19 done, right? COVID-19 has taken you far away from everybody, right?
exactly.
Kept you in your house. There's no Brahmin to come to your house,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There's no Pandit, so you got to do everything yourself. Fortunately, we live in, like now you and I are talking now on this live stream, right? You
ji.
know, you can have a Pandit guiding you on live stream, telling you do
On
that,
live
you
stream.
can do that. But remember, he's not next to you. He's not in your house.
Hmm.
So there is no such thing that you must have the Pandit in your house for you to perform your prayers, your havan and so on. And I think more and more people now are understanding what a havan is, and they can. I think they know the simple mantras
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah,
And we teach them. I certainly make it my duty to
ji.
teach them how to perform a havan. Young people, and of course the young people, you can't teach them anything. You have to tell them why.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Everything is why, and if you don't
But
explain to them
but
why, then they won't do it.
but in fact,
That
I admire them, and I many times tell youngsters that I like the youngster, and I have biggest followers in South Africa as youngsters, because you see, once you tell them why, then they follow that particular things devotionally. Where olden days they used to do out of the fear. The Guruji said, now we can't ask and now can't say
yes,
no.
yeah, no.
Yeah, this thing. Yeah,
So you've got to encourage them to ask. I
yeah.
will encourage them. In fact, sometimes I learn because I don't know all the answers. I certainly
Ji,
I'm
ji,
very very
ji,
very
ji,
very 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 uneducated in the dharma itself because I don't know. I
ji.
think the person that knows everything hasn't been born yet.
Not yet, especially in Dharma, Hindu Dharma,
Hasn't been
because I,
born.
I, I tell people that Hindu Dharma is like an ocean, right?
Yes,
Ocean.
yes,
And even
ocean.
though I know maybe 10, 15,000 verses and many scriptures I have studied, yet I have one drop from there, right?
Yes,
So you right correctly put it that no one born yet.
yes,
Yes.
and what it also does is when they ask questions, you and I, because we read the scriptures and we read the all the different verses and we try to understand it, we look at it from a different mind.
Ji.
Young people look at it from a completely different mind.
Totally, yeah.
They have what is called an inquiring mind, right? And when they
Yes, yeah.
inquiring mind, they ask you some very, very important questions,
Yeah.
right? Which makes you go and read,
It
and
makes
when
you,
you
yeah,
do that, you
prepared.
understand your own dharma even more than what you
Yeah.
did. And
Ji.
sometimes I don't have the answers. I tell them, sorry,
Ji.
give me a day or two. I will go and do some
Yeah.
research.
Ji.
And
Ji.
sometimes when I can't find it in the research, then I will phone people. I've never phoned you, but there are others here in Durban who I phone
Yeah.
and say, Guruji, can you tell me? This is a question I've got. How can I? And sometimes I even send email to my Guruji in Gondal. You know Gondal?
Yeah, Gondal, huh?
Yeah, Gondalમાં ભમનેશ્વરીનું મંદિર છે ને ત્યાં.
ભુવનેશ્વરીનું મંદિર છે.
ત્યાં ઘનશ્યામજી છે, આચાર્ય ઘનશ્યામજી.
મંદિરમાંથી હજુ પણ અહીંયા કેલેન્ડર ને બધું આવતું છે આપણે
હા, તમારે આવે
સાઉથ
છે?
આફ્રિકામાં. જી
ઓ,
જી
હા,
જી.
મને તો બધા કેલેન્ડર ને પંચાંગ ને બધું આવે.
યસ. સો
એ
નાઇસ.
લોકો એટલે એની પાસે મને ઘણી વખત એ પણ હેરાન કરું કે જો મારે આ સવાલ છે તમને આપો જવાબ. એટલે
જી.
so coming back, so I think it's very important to think that whether it is not necessary, but if you don't know, it is important to get a pandit to help you.
જી. Yes, yeah.
Is your guide. Your pandit is your guide, right?
Yes.
And eventually,
So I put correctly is that you're not saying that don't use Pandit, but if his Pandit not there, you can do it. And which is, I also
Yes.
agree that yes, our
Definitely.
Brahma Yagya, you're supposed to do
Yes.
yourself. Sandhya, you're supposed to do yourself. And then this is the rituals you can do every, or the prayer you're supposed to offer every time, or the month, 15 days. and therefore you can do yourself, and the scriptures said that. Yeah.
Yes, and that's why sometimes you say, "Oh, I haven't got a pandit to do it. What am I going to do now? Oh, I
Yeah.
can't do the prayers now. I got to have problems and so on." We've got to tell them,
Yeah.
"No, don't worry about it, right?" And then now, when we offer the water, what we offer daily, right?
Yes.
We put some seeds inside there, right, in that water. Right?
Yeah. Tulsi,
And
sesame
people
seed,
want to
black
know,
one.
why you put seeds in the water, right? Why can't you just give plain water, right? Right. I think Sanatan Dharma says that when you want to say thank you, or you want to show gratitude and devotion to the Pitras, right? Then the spiritual activity of the water, right, is referred to as tarpan, right? That we
Tarpan,
talked
yeah.
about tarpan.
Yeah. Trupyatam.
Yeah, tarpan is the it comes from the word Sanskrit word, I think it's tripti.
Trupya or trupti?
Tripti, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that means satisfaction. That's what
Ji.
that's the meaning of that, right? So tarpan is a process of satisfying our ancestors. That's basically
Ji.
what it is. Nothing more than that, right? If you take Ayurveda, right? Ayurveda is a form
Ji.
of
Yeah.
it's a belief that the seeds, there's Ayurveda says the seeds of the human being, right? The seed of a human being is your genes and your
Ji.
chromosome. That's what they say, right? That's
Chromosome,
your
yeah.
seed.
Ji.
Right? So similarly, right? And that gene or chromosome is also your plasma for the germ. With this COVID-19,
Yes, yeah.
they talk about plasma.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
is, right? So while the human being is seen like a tree, right? The human being is a tree,
Yeah.
and then the product of those seeds, that's the tree, right? So biologically, we know that half of our genes come from one parent and the other half from the other parent. That's how it comes, right? From the
Ji.
mother and the father, right? And we therefore, we have identical genes with our parents, and they, what's the word in English? Resonate, like vibrate one another,
Ji.
right? That's basically
Yeah.
what happens, right? So the fundamental identity therefore means that our parents' emotions are bound to resonate with our own emotions.
Emotions.
That's where the chromosome and genes come, right? And our emotions are influenced by our grandparents' emotions, right?
Ji.
Right? Since our parents' genes originate from the grandparents, right? So
Ji.
it's a gene from one
Yeah.
generation to the next generation, right? Now, if you take homeopathy, they say that you also inherit weaknesses that are passed down, right? And that is called what we call kutum dosh, right?
Ji.
Dosh,
Ji.
and
Dosh,
kutum
yeah.
is,
Dosh, yeah. Which is you carry it with you.
the fault, right? So
Yeah.
the Ayurvedic rejuvenation works on the your physical, right, of these faults. So tarpan works more deeply, right? What tarpan does is it reduces the emotional charges, right, which have accumulated in you because of your activities of your
Ji.
pitru, right? That the seeds which are the seeds that we use? We use jav, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Till.
Jav is for the gods and for the devtas, right?
Ji.
And then of course we use tal, right?
Black
Or
till.
till, as
Yeah.
we call it. And that is for the pitras, right?
Pitru, yeah.
Yeah, that is for the pitras. So there we are. I think I've done, we've got 10 minutes left. But I try to do my best to explain this whole thing, and I hope that it is something to think about. We can talk about a lot about this, but I try to
Yes.
make it as simple as possible. And I hope, Kirti Bhai, that I've satisfied your requirements that you wanted me to talk about.
No, thanks, Ashwin Bhai. You see, there is a one word called samvad. Samvad, talk. Right?
Yes.
And when I go to do prayers, I do very little mantra, but more explanation, especially because, as I said earlier, I have very big communities that follow youngsters, especially those from now when I'm Johannesburg and Durban, all the youngsters move to Johannesburg from the lands other side. So when I go, I do explain, and that's one of the reason World Hindu Pandit organization found, because and I said you also have to play the vital role on that. These all the we have greater like knowledge or vast knowledge in our dharma, and answer for every single things, right? And that should reach to the all the community. And somehow lack of the English, because when I came earlier, when I was in Port Elizabeth, and then that time I don't know the English, and yet I just studied, and very vibrant. I was around 23 years or something, if I'm not wrong, because now I'm in 16 years South Africa. So I went to one of the teacher, Radha Ben Lala, and I learn English because I want to reach out to the community or the youngsters, because they always have questions, which is I know back of mind, and then I need somebody to communicate between me and them, and therefore I thought that time that I need to learn, and then I learned. But when said Jaja Hath Radiyamana, in Gujarati said Jaja Hath Radiyamana, many hand make work easy. So people like you or the many other priests in South Africa, those who have those all knowledge, we put them together, and this kind of samvad. So in fact, every single scriptures, let Bhagavad Gita be said, Bhagavad Gita cannot start without the samvad between the Bhagwan Krishna and the Arjuna. If that samvad wasn't there, then the Bhagavad Gita couldn't start, because the samvad, he asked why I must fight. So the samvad, and the second thing is a question. The samvad, which is talked by two people, and then the question, ask question. I always ask people must ask question, because then the answer when we give and they realize that this is the important or significant, then they do that devotionally, right? So most of things we cover. There was some issue with the date, Ashwin Bhai, and I spoke with you on about that. I want to just take few second of yours. Please, is there any way to look at when I spoke with few other priests, they said our Gujarati calendar is different, Hindi calendar is different, and I do agree. But maybe somehow we try, as and you said, Panchang committee is there. So just little bit light on that.
Yeah, I think what we need to do, we had one of the, we've got a priest committee which consists of all the priests that contribute, and that's from south and north. And then I'll deal with the south first. We had a lot of problems in the past with the wrong dates for the south. Until what we did is we got the group of priests from overseas. They call themselves the Guru Mas, right? They are the only south, and they have now joined us. And they have at least clarified the issue of all the dates for the South people. We ask them, they join our committee, and we get it, and now there are no more problems, right? That would so we need to do the same now for our dates as well. And as I said to you now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you involved, and Guruji Vyas and all the others. You'll have to help us get the people. So that when this committee meet once a year to decide the calendar for the whole year, you all can also help and make sure that we don't have these controversies, because it is quite upsetting, because young people say, "Oh, I can't even agree one date to."
Yes, They absolutely. And that I was talking with you.
Yeah, they are absolutely right, because young people today have got so much of their own obligations in life. They're all professional people, they're all career driven, and they don't have a lot of time, but they still make sure that they devote some of their time to their dharma. Now, when they do devote the time and they come across irritations, as I call it, right? Then they get angry and they say, I'm not going to be doing it anymore. Why must I waste my time? You people, you can't even tell me which day. And then there are others who say, it doesn't matter what date, it doesn't matter. It's what you have from your heart. When we said earlier on when I was explaining, you've got to clean yourself externally and internally, right? And your internal cleaning is so important. So there are very many of our young people today who say, look, I'm not concerned about whether it's today or tomorrow. If I know it's either today or tomorrow, that's fine. I'll choose the day which is convenient for me. But I'm going to do it with my heart clear as to what I want to do. And that for
Yes,
me
yeah.
is quite important than worrying about whether I should have done it today or I should have done it yesterday. Right? So, that's a practical way of dealing with it as
Yes.
well.
Yeah,
So, but coming back to it, I promise you, you're going to be
yeah,
involved. You and your
yeah,
colleagues will definitely be involved so that we don't have
yeah.
these problems again.
Yes.
And I look
So
forward to
thank you, Ashwin Bhai, and thanks all the viewers in the different platform. Today we have wonderful chat with Ashwin Bhai, and in fact, I supposed to speak on the significance of the Pitru Paksha and Shraddha Paksha, but last minute Luciben Sigaban couldn't join because of the load shedding, and then I have to do her duty. But anyway, nevertheless, the Ashwin Bhai cover all the most of our questions. On the Pitru Paksh, and as very important, and that Guruji Gopal Bhai said, but in a Sanskrit they say Shraddhavan labate phalam. Whatever you do, whatever amount you do, but one do with the Shraddha is like not quantity but quality, and
quality.
do with the Shraddhavan labate phalam, one who do his duty towards to the what is a dharma is a duty, and your duty do with your whatever strength, or the said yatha shakti yatha mati tathaivacha, whatever your shakti, whatever your will, and then yatha mati with your je avete magajma, whatever you can think about, but do it shraddha, with shraddha. As I always explain people that when you offer 108 ladu to Ganesh ji and say pranaya swaha, and then after the offering you count the 108 ladu, it will be there. But then what Bhagwan took, he said your shraddha, your love.
That's more
We'll say
important.
manથી આપેલું છે ભગવાનને, whatever you give from your heart, that is Bhagwan. The bhavna bhukya છે. He is always hungry of your love and the shraddha. So do all the rest of the days of Pitrus, everything, whatever you do with shraddha, whatever amount shraddha, time you give, chant the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, even the Anjali, little bit water you offer to your Pitru, it will reach, and do with the shraddha. That is for today. This series of the Pitru Paksh will be carry on, and next Thursday they will have another guest. But till then, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Pitru Devebhyo Namaha. Mara Jai Shri Krishna Saune and Ashwin Bhai, very thank you, very much thank you to you. Thanks for all the time whenever I ask you to come, and especially was today was something very different. Maybe rather than Hindu Mahasabha president, you was today preached and spoke very nicely, and then the Bhaiji who helped also, my pranam to them. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna, and thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Jai Shri
Jai Shri
Krishna. Right.